Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ricky Waters. I'm the county agent in Macon County. And can everyone hear me? Good afternoon. My name is Ricky Waters. I'm the Fort Valley State Extension County Agent in Macon County. And we're glad that you all was able to join us today with our program. The Farm Service Agency and the NRCS is going to give us some program updates. And before we get started, I'm not going to prolong too much more of the time, but just let me say that in this modern day competitive society that we live in, it is imperative that we stay abreast on the services that the USDA is offering. And we need to utilize these services because they will help you improve your standard of living. So I'm not going to prolong too much more of the time. So what we're going to do, we have Mr. Mark Thomas, who is our field coordinator. We're going to ask him to come and give us a welcome. Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Ricky. As Mr. Waters said, in the day and times that we're in, it is imperative for landowners, farmers, producers, whether small or large, to stay abreast of all the information that USDA has in the program offerings to everyone. And we at Fort Valley State are pleased to continue these ag extension updates. We've had several of these in various different topics, and we thank you all and welcome you all for joining us on another one. And we want to continue to bring you pertinent information, timely information, so it could be properly utilized. And as Mr. Waters stated, we have two speakers from USDA Farm Service Agency and one from USDA Natural Resource Conservation Service. And they're going to bring us information that is going to be timely. And we thank you all for being here. We also ask, as we continue to do these things on a virtual format, and as the world is opening back up, when we get back to face-to-face and conducting face-to-face programming, we ask that you all stay abreast of our current events that we're doing on the webpage, through our YouTube channel and our Facebook pages. Hopefully later on, as we move through this program, we'll be putting those links in the chat box, so that if you aren't familiar with our Facebook page, if you aren't familiar with our YouTube page, if you aren't familiar with our website, we'll have that information in the chat box for you to look at, review, and stay abreast of the various different programs that we have. So again, on behalf of all of our administrators at Fort Valley State University, from the president down to our dean to our extension administrator, we welcome you all this afternoon, and we look forward to continuously servicing you. And whenever you have an issue, please feel free to contact us and let us know. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that warm welcome. So our next presenter is going to be Ms. Teresa Wyndham. She's the district director with the Farm Service Agency, and she's housing out of Fort Valley, and we're going to ask her to come to present to us. Ms. Wyndham.
Thank you. My pleasure to be here today. I hope that I can provide you information related to any FSA programs that we have ongoing and an update on the American Rescue Plan. So if we'll start our presentation. So earlier this year, unprecedented legislation was passed that included, that was called the American Rescue Plan. And I was asked to provide some updates on the Section 1005. Next slide. Basically, there's an estimated timeline of what has going on. Right now, we're in the initial stage of notifying the eligible recipients of the American Rescue Plan debt relief of those potential debt release that's going to be granted. So we've had some slight delays in our estimated original timeline of how quickly we could get those notifications out, but we're basically in the initial notification stage. So let me take you through the program overview. So basically, anyone as of January 1st of this year, 2020, that had an outstanding direct or guaranteed debt with FSA, with either the farm program FSA loan or the farm storage facility loan, is eligible for this debt relief. And it's designed to pay up to 120% of your outstanding balance as of January 1st. Now, the 100% is towards the portion of the debt that you have outstanding. And the 20% is to help you pay any fees or taxes associated with that tax relief. Any payments that a producer has paid to FSA as of after January 1st and forward will be refunded, but those refunds will not be done until after we've processed the debt relief. So who is eligible? Next slide. Any loan that was closed and advanced prior to January 1 is going to be eligible. So they had to owe us money at the time, okay, FSA. They had to be made directly by FSA. That included the farm storage facility loans, direct farm ownership loans, farm operating loans, including microloans and youth loans, emergency loans, conservation loans, soil and water loans, and loans that were made guaranteed loans. Now, we will be doing the guaranteed loans after we complete all the direct loans. So we have not started the guaranteed loan process yet. If the loan is currently in a delinquent status, it's included, it's eligible. So if they've missed a payment, if the loan was already accelerated, if we're in the process of foreclosure, which all of that has been halted because of COVID for the last year, those loans will be eligible. Okay, next slide. So pretty much all our loans, I think we skipped a slide. Can you go back one slide? Yeah. All the loans are eligible if they had an outstanding balance and, oh yeah, delinquent loan. I'm sorry, we did talk about that. How to participate. Next slide, sorry. Okay. The borrowers don't have to do anything at this point, all right? Because they're already borrowers. We know who they are. We're going to send a letter to them. It's a form 2601. It's a 6-page letter. It explains everything about the program, and I'm going to take you through a little bit of it. All they have to do is review it and choose an option. And there's 3 options to choose. I'm going to go through those and send it back. Next slide. So if the 2601 is going to be sent to people, so if you were the only person that signed the promissory note and you farmed as an individual person, then you're the only person that's going to get that letter. You're the only person that has to sign the letter. If you farmed as some type of formal entity and at least one member of the entity is designated as a socially disadvantaged borrower, then the entity and each member will get a letter and will sign it. Informal entities, married couples, that at least one of them is a socially disadvantaged applicant, the primary borrower and each co-borrower will receive the 2601. So the letter will be sent to you. If, let's just say that for some reason you've moved and FSA has not been updated, on the address, then hopefully that will come back and we'll mail it to the correct address. But after 30 days, if we receive no response, FSA is going to send a second letter that says, hey, you know, we haven't received a response, and we're going to ask them to respond back to us. If there's no response after an additional 30 days, then we're going to send another letter. We have no deadline for anybody to send their responses back. So we don't have a deadline as far as you have the person having to send back the 2601 to FSA. Okay, next slide. All right, so when the 2601, the offer is received, there's going to be 3 options that can be selected. If you read the letter and you say, yes, I agree to everything, which in the agreement, you're acknowledging that you are eligible for the debt relief and that you want the debt relief, basically. But the real important thing is to review the entire letter. So obviously, option 1 is to accept the offer. And all you have to do is sign and fill out the direct deposit information, send the original back to your farm loan office. You can take it to any local FSA office, but your local farm loan office needs to process it. So their local farm loan office needs to process it. So it'd be better just to take it back. So if you've been working with the Fort Valley office, you take it to Fort Valley. If you've been working with the office in Moultrie, you take it to Moultrie. Simple as that. Option 2 is you can request a meeting. So if you would like to review the information being provided in the notification, then you can request a meeting. You can sit down with your loan officer. You can sit down with me. You can sit down with anyone that you feel comfortable with and discuss what this information includes. If you believe that the offer is incorrect, it's really important that you have that meeting, okay? And then there's offer 3, which is to decline the offer. So if the person chooses not to accept the offer, then they can decline it, and that's an irrevocable declination. So once you say no, that's it. We'll move forward, and then the normal process for your loan continues. The person's loan continues. All right, next slide. Again, accepting the offer, whoever receives the letter, all of the people that receive the letter, if the individual, it goes to one person, that's the person that needs to respond to the letter. If it's a formal entity, we have to have everybody, all the signatures for the socially disadvantaged borrowers that were sent the 2601. And then for an informal entity, it's all the borrowers. There's a section on it where we have to have the banking information. Now, there is a waiver form that can be done if you want a paper check. However, it will add additional days to your processing time. So, and I've included in the original email that I sent the waiver form, but it's an FFAS 12 that can be provided. And you can meet with the FSA office and they can provide you the form, or it can be emailed, or you can pull it off the public forms website. This debt relief does not impact the future eligibility for loans. So as long as you meet the loan eligibility requirements that we have currently, or that will be in place at the time that a person applies, then this debt relief has no bearing on any future loans. Okay, next slide. Again, on option 2, you can request a meeting. Anyone that's receiving the 2601 can request a meeting. You can call and you can say that you want to have the meeting via phone. We can do it virtually, via email, or in person. We're still operating under the COVID restrictions, which means that we will screen you before we allow you in the building, which, as long as you're not running a temperature and things of that nature, and you have your mask, or unless you've been vaccinated for 2 weeks, you can come in, but we can only have one appointment at a time on our current COVID restrictions. Okay, next slide. And if you decline the offer, then we're going to need all the signatures that are required. And it's, like I said, it's irrevocable. So I don't know under what circumstances someone may want to decline, but that's the 3 options: accept, ask for a meeting, and then after the meeting, you may accept, or it may be, if there's an issue that needs to be corrected, to be corrected, or you may decline. Okay, next slide. So, we do have people that have passed away that still have debts with us. We will be notifying the estate, so to speak, for any deceased borrowers that had eligible loans. In order for FSA to process the debt relief for that estate and provide the additional 20%, we will have to have documents to indicate to us who is the authorized representative. If that has not been provided by that person, and we do have a number of people that are deceased, and they may not have provided us the information, we will need something, the copy of the will, letters of administration, letters of qualification, or if they died intestate and you haven't started the estate probate process, if it's a husband and wife situation, a copy of the marriage certificate, things of that nature. Some type of information will be required, because we'll have to validate who has the signature authority, and we will need to know who is authorized to receive the 20% for the estate. Okay, next slide. Should not be surprising for me to say that there's currently a restraining order out there, that multiple lawsuits have been filed in regards to this action. And right now, FSA is continuing to provide the offer letters to the recipients. We are not authorized to make any payments as yet. So once this restraining offer is lifted, then we would start the payments. Next slide. So once we receive the 2601 back and we validated the signatures as need be, and the offer is and the request is it has been accepted, then the payments will be issued. There'll be 2 payments issued. One will go to FSA for the amount to pay the debt in full. And then once that money has been applied, the 20% payment will go to the eligible recipients. And again, you can ask for, the recipient can ask for a waiver. That's going to add about 10 days to 2 weeks to the time that they will receive the money. We originally planned for, or hoped to be able to process or issue the checks or the payments within 3 weeks of receiving back the 2601. Due to the restraining order, we can't really give you an estimate of when those payments will go out after receiving the 2601. Once we've gotten past the hurdle of the restraining order, then hopefully we'll be back on processing those within 3 weeks. Okay, next slide. So what happens after the payment has been applied to your debt? Any 2021 payments that were made after January 1st of 2021, they will be refunded to you to the recipient by a separate check to the borrower. If If this results in your loan being paid in full, and I know you're probably thinking, why am I saying if? I'll explain that in just a second. Then we would go through our normal process of providing you the transmittal of documents, which is the promissory notes being marked paid, being returned, and the security instruments being terminated at the clerk of court. Now, this is real important that when we do the termination of financial statements and the deed of secure debts and all those filing statements, those documents, that's important that those be canceled at the clerk of court. FSA in Georgia does not collect money from the borrowers to pay those when the applicant applies. That's typically paid by the borrower when the debt has been paid in full. Part of the reason why the 20% is being provided is to pay for any of those cancellation fees. So once the check has been applied to your account to wipe it out and zero those loans down, that local farm loan office within 30 days would be contacting the borrower to tell them, okay, you have X number of UCCs and X number of deed secure debts that need to be terminated at whatever clerk of court offices they're filed at. We need a check for number of dollars made to that clerk of court so that we can cancel these documents. That's really important that portion be carried forward to wipe out those financial statements. Also, it's important to remember that this is a taxable event, which means that at the end of the year, between January 1st and January 31st of 2022, every recipient of this relief will receive a 1098, just like they do every year. That's your annual statement of account. And it's going to say that that you receive debt relief and whatever the amount is. It's really important that everybody have gone and talked to their CPA, their tax official, whoever, someone that can give them good tax advice, the extension agent, in regards to what this may or may not impact their taxes. So that's also a good reason why you want to, before you accept the offer, is have an understanding of what impact this is going to have. The offer letter is going to say, this is how much is going to be applied to your loan. And then it's going to have a second column that says the amount of money you're receiving separately, the 20% is X number of dollars. So you'll have both figures on the letter at the same time. It won't be a guess. Now back to why I said if your debt, it results in your farm loan debt being paid in full. The reason I said if is that if you had an annual operating loan for 2021 and the funds had not been fully advanced by January the 1st, then any advances on any loan, for example, but I'm using an annual operating loan, any advances made after January 1st are not eligible for debt relief. So those monies will still have to be paid back, okay? So the money had to have been advanced before it can be eligible for debt relief. We do have people that had paid us in full prior to January 1st. If the debt was paid in full or any portion of it was paid down prior to January 1st, those payments are not refundable. Those loans are not eligible. It had to have an outstanding balance as of January 1. Okay, next slide. So in summary, what should we do next? First, carefully review the offer letter once it's received. And we are slowly processing those, not slowly because we're holding back on it, just because we want to be super careful. Make sure that we have the correct notification going to the people that need to sign the letter. and we're sending the correct amount. And there's 3 to 4 people involved in each letter notification that's going out before it's mailed out. So in Georgia, we're probably about a third of the way through the notification, the initial notification of the direct borrowers. And we're sending out letters every day in regards to this debt relief. Once the 2601 is received and the temporary restraining order is lifted, it's going to be about 3 weeks before the payments go out, like I said. And that's really what's happening with the American Rescue Plan. If you go to the next slide, the best way to keep up with the updates in regards to any of the FSA programs is to subscribe to the updates in farmers.gov. The department has worked really, really hard in making this website to be hopefully user-friendly, but to keep it up to date with the most up-to-date information in regards to any programs. It's super easy to subscribe to it. You go to the website, farmers.gov, scroll all the way to the bottom right-hand corner. You type in your email address and hit subscribe, and then it'll take you to another page where you can say, I want additional information about various things, but at least you'll get the farmers.gov updates. Now, I'm not sure. I'm happy to take any questions at this point about the American Rescue Plan. I do have a couple of more slides unrelated to the American Rescue Plan. Okay, well, I'll like I said, I'll just go through the other few slides that I have, and happy to answer any questions at any time. So if we can go to the next slide. You may or may not be familiar with the pandemic assistance that's being provided for producers. Of course, we have the CFAP program, Coronavirus Food and Protection Program, that's been ongoing for a while. So CFAP 2, as we refer to it, is because we had 2 versions of it. A CFAP 2, we still have no deadline for that. So if there's any possibility that there's a producer out there of an eligible commodity that has not applied, they need to go to their FSA office and apply, or contact that FSA office. Of course, you can apply online. Again, if you go through farmers.gov, it'll easily navigate you to the information that'll take you through what's eligible, how to apply, and you can do the entire process online. The local FSA office will receive a notification that would service your application, and will follow up with the applicant in regards to any missing information that may be required. So as of today, right now, we do not have a deadline for CFAP 2. If we are still waiting for clarification on the contract poultry grower payments. So as of today, we have not made any payments to the contract poultry growers, because that calculation and method of how that was going to be calculated is still under review. Although we do hope that will come out by August the 15th, if not before then. All right, next slide. In the next 60 days, within the next 60 days, so sometime between now and August the 15th, we are expecting additional pandemic assistance to come out. Some of this will not be handled by FSA. It will be handled by another USDA agency, and we don't know which ones as of today who will be handling it. But the small family-owned timber harvesting and hauling businesses will be eligible for up to $200 million in assistance. The biofuel producers, there's $700 million for them. Dairy farmers and processors, part of that will be handled by FSA under the Dairy Marketing Contract Program, DMC. The contract poultry grower, which I mentioned before. Organic producers, cost share initiative. We've had that program ongoing for a while. In Georgia, FSA handles that because it can be given to the Department of Agriculture for a block grant thing, and Georgia may request it back, but currently FSA implements that for Georgia. And like I said, not all of these programs will be implemented by FSA, but if you subscribe to that information on farmers.gov, as soon as these programs roll out, you'll have the information. Okay, next slide. As always, feel free to reach out to your local FSA office regarding any questions you have. The farm loan staff should be able to assist anyone regarding the items on there related to the American Rescue Plan. If they have a question about the 2601, when it's coming, or now the local farm loan office, they have no control over when the letter is coming or not, because we have a small group of people in the state that are processing them. And when I say small, it's 5 people. And they have no control of who is going to get the letter and when, because we have to wait for the list to come from the national office after it's been validated, and then it comes to the state, and then they process it. If you ever need additional assistance, you're having an issue with the service that you received at the FSA office, I have 4 cohorts in the state of Georgia that do the same thing I do as a district director. We all cover different geographical areas. I cover what's called West Central Georgia. So we have representatives that cover the entire state. If you ever need assistance with an issue that you're having, or anybody does, then they should always reach out to their district director. We are the state office representative that's in the field, and we're in the field so that we can come out and meet with you and make sure and get to the root of the problem. If you don't know who your person is that you need to talk to, you can always call me, and I'll be happy to find the right person for you to talk to. I'm not sure. Hopefully I didn't go over my time, or I may not have used enough time.
Ms. Wyndham, thank you for your for everything. And we got some questions in the chat box.
Okay.
Mr. Price is going to handle that. Mr. Price, can you?
Yes, Ricky. We have a question. Can you hear me, Ms. Wyndham?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. One of the question is, you can also contact Carla Hollis, who's our USDA liaison. And if you have any questions, concerns, or issues with that, you can reach Ms. Hollis at carla.hollis@usda.gov. And her phone number is also in the chat as well. But that is the only thing I see at this present time.
Correct. That's all I see also, Mr. Price.
So everyone should be able to go to the chat and see Ms. Hollis's chat response for that information.
Okay,
And Ms. Hollis is located on Fort Valley State University campus in our cooperative extension suite on campus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Wyndham, and we really appreciate your giving that presentation for us. And if you all would put in has been put in the chat box, the evaluation, and y'all take a few minutes to fill that out, either now or at the end of the presentation. Just give us a few minutes of your time to complete it for us. And we're gonna, our next presenter is Mr. Garrett Morris. He's a district director out of Blakely, Georgia. Mr. Morris, would you now come forward, please, sir?
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Just like Mr. Waters stated, my name is Garrett Morris. Currently actually an area resource conservationist with NRCS. So right now I service or assist service Southeast Georgia or Southwest Georgia rather, 36 counties across the area. And I'm actually I was based out of Blakely, Georgia, but now I'm based out of Camilla. But I'm still available to everyone in this area. Feel free to reach out to me, and I'll reiterate later on, feel free to visit your local USDA service center to also get in touch with us with NRCS and see what our programs and opportunities we have to offer. All right, so I've been working in Southwest Georgia about 6 years now, but I've been working with the United States Department of Agriculture since 2011. Again, thanks for the opportunity given to me to talk to you all today. Big thanks to Fort Valley State University and all the county extension agents in your whole program. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate all the things you all are doing. So I do have a PowerPoint to present, but I think that I'm gonna kind of bounce around and omit that this morning. So I just want to get into what NRCS is, what we do, and what opportunities we have for the folks who don't know what NRCS is all about. So NRCS is an agency within the United States Department of Agriculture. We're essentially the flagship agency for technical needs across agriculture in the U.S., mainly revolving around conservation and conservation practices. So our job overall is to address resource concerns, whether it be with soil, water, air, plants, animals, and most importantly, humans, and also energy. But before I get into it too deep, if someone could help me out, I think that the most productive conversation that we have within NRCS and across the USDA, all across the board, or agriculture in general, are the interactive ones. So if someone can help me out by keeping an eye on the chat box or any questions that anyone has, I don't want to necessarily wait until the end of the presentation or the end of everything I'm saying to get any questions answered. I think that it'll really be informative or more informative to everyone involved on here today if I can answer questions as we progress. That way we could address any potential issues that we're having with NRCS or agriculture live or anything else, any other questions. All right, so within NRCS, we do offer conservation programs. For those who don't know, two of our main programs are the EQIP program and CSP. EQIP is EQIP. The acronym stands for the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, and CSP is the Conservation Stewardship Program. My own words, I kind of look at these programs as a crawl before you walk or a walk before you run type deal. In comparison, looking at EQIP versus CSP. So with EQIP, we do address these resource concerns that I mentioned earlier. And they may involve issues revolving around your livestock or soil erosion or irrigation needs across the area or across the US. And through these programs, the public is able to apply for assistance in addressing these resource concerns, whether it be retrofitting or any irrigation systems for cropland. We also look into providing cost share for cover crop, terraces, waterways, water and sediment control basins. With livestock, we're looking at doing cost incentive or cost share with cross fencing, water troughs, pipeline, wells, and pumping plants. Also heavy use areas or heavy use pads, and pasture planting, grass planting. That's just two of them. We also dive into forestry. We do some cost incentive and cost sharing with tree planting. There's pine trees across the state of Georgia. Any site preparation, whether it be chemical or mechanical, prescribed burning, fire breaks, and irrigation. I did mention retrofitting any center pivot systems, but also we provide cost incentive or cost share towards installing any solid set irrigation systems or micro jet or micro irrigation systems, whether it be for produce or for pecan orchards or orchards in general. So and it's just a taste of what we do. Like I said, I'm going to be reiterating throughout the course of my talk, and just make sure that you visit your local USDA service center. And I just mentioned a few things. It may seem like a long list, but they're just a few things of what we all do. And you talk to the folks in your local office, I'm more than certain that they'll be happy to walk you through all the other opportunities that NRCS has to offer. I do want to discuss eligibility for these different things. In order to be eligible, we do look at AGI, which is your adjusted gross income. So in order to be eligible for NRCS programs, your adjusted gross income for each fiscal year, and we have a form where you'll fill out in order to verify your eligibility, your adjusted gross income does not need to exceed $900,000 annually. And if you do, we need to know about it. And also, we look at highly erodible land or wetland conservation eligibility. So you'll basically be letting us know that you won't be changing any wetland or highly erodible acres on your land in order to make an agricultural commodity possible to produce. So you won't be clearing any wetlands on your property. And we're not a regulatory agency. Again, we're technical. So we can't like police you or dictate or control whether or not you do that on your acres. But it would be very difficult for you to be receiving or for you to receive USDA benefits if you're altering those acres on your property. We also look at land eligibility. So for the different, and for those who know about NRCS, you may have run into this before, for the different land uses that I mentioned earlier, whether it be forestry, cropland, livestock, or whatever the case is, there are different eligibility requirements in place when you're applying for these different practices. And a lot of it is fairly simplistic, but you may have seen difficulties with this before. So for example, irrigation systems, we definitely want to make sure that you have a make sure that you have out of the past 5 years, at least 2 years of irrigation history. So you need to be irrigating your crop in some shape, form, or fashion for 2 out of the last 5 years in order for us to try to retrofit or improve or install any irrigation systems for you. Also with livestock, for example, if you're applying for water troughs or cross fencing and things like that, we want to make sure that you have livestock on your property. And forestry, if you're applying for prescribed burning, fire breaks, or site prep, whatever, we want to make sure that you actually have trees out on your place. So with us being a technical agency, we do have that cost share part that's tied in with NRCS, but we want to make sure that we do site visits. So when you apply for these different programs, our staff and your local service center will be visiting your site to make sure that you're eligible for the things for which you're applying. And that's to make sure that we're getting money to the different conservation practices across Georgia that actually need it, which also in the long game, it ends up servicing you better. So we don't want to put money in a position or in a place where it's not needed, and we're missing out on the opportunity where it is needed. I know I saw a question already. Mr. Mark Thomas, can I find out the AGI information online? If so, what is your web address for Georgia? Actually, it was mentioned earlier. We do operate off the same website, farmers.gov. But I will always push it. And our state conservationist, Mr. Terrence Rudolph, will as well. NRCS stands for the Natural Resources Conservation Service. So the last word in our name is service, but that's the first thing we do. So farmers.gov is good to visit, and you can find a lot of the paperwork and documents that you need off of there. But the best way, the absolute best way that I suggest you can get a hold of this information, or you want to look at these different forms, is to visit your local service center. So out of the 36 counties in Southwest Georgia, you'll probably find somewhere between 30 and 36 different offices. And if you're unaware where they are, I'll be available after this presentation, or you can reach out to Fort Valley Extension Services. Different ways to get a hold of us. But if you visit their local service center, they'll be more than happy to walk you through the different forms that we have and that are there for your eligibility. So AGI, the actual form in this specific case is called a 941. So your AGI is pretty much, it'll ask you straightforward, do you make in excess of $900,000 a year? And you'll check yes or no. So I do want to kind of take a section here and you can utilize the chat box, or if you're watching live, kind of get your word out through that, through the comments. But does anyone have any questions at all at this point? And to my understanding, I know that the audience watching is mixed in terms of we do have some folks that are used to NRCS programs and what we do all together, and some folks are brand new. So if you're brand new, I'll take a lot of questions from you right now. And if you have experience with NRCS or our programs in the past, if you want to bring up, without giving us too much detail, without giving the whole group too much detail, if you want to bring up a situation, you got a question about a well or about fencing or terraces or irrigation or whatever, I kind of want to take a break here and just kind of address a lot of this stuff. Because like I said, I can talk about NRCS programs in general, but it really helps if we get into specific situations or questions. And Mr. Waters, let me know if I miss anything. So if anyone has any questions or comments, let me know at this time.
Greetings. How you doing today?
Doing all right. How you doing? Sound like you got your
I'm
hands.
doing excellent. I'm doing excellent. I may hear the kids in the background, but hey, Araya, pause. I'm a landowner in Jones County, and I recently got the land. And so what I'm trying to figure out is, I hear you say that there are opportunities for irrigation. So I have wooded land, and I'm basically just trying to figure out the way to go. I've heard about the conservation easements. And so I'm really trying to just get some direction. I reached out to my local county agent, waiting to hear back from them. But I'm really just kind of figure out it's wooded land, but I also have some water on it, about a 2-acre stream that turns into a pond. And just kind of what's the best way to go about it as far as for the resources that NRCS does have available.
Okay, I definitely want to emphasize, I didn't mention it earlier, I want to emphasize, or I kind of did mention it, one of the resource concerns we cover, and the most important one is the human aspect. So us not being a regulatory agency, our role is to help you all. So in the end, with it being your land, it's all about what goals you want to pursue. So we can look and see what you have out there and take you one direction or the other as far as eligibility and what works as far as our practices. But if you have wooded land, or if it's just pine trees or things like that, we can look at burning or planting pine trees or different species that can help you out, whether it be hardwoods or softwoods. If you have any wetland acres, we do have outside of CSP and EQIP, we have programs geared towards providing easement agreements or different practices that will help you improve your wetland acres. And you mentioned irrigation. Do you have any crops that you're growing out there now?
Right now, there's a whole bunch of high bush blueberry and hawthorn berries that have already been there. I guess they seeded themselves and just kind of spread throughout. I do want to do some fruit trees because I guess I want to make it sort of a homestead, but I also want to produce. I want to do some ginger and some turmeric. But so there are already some things like those high bush blueberries and hawthorn berries. A whole bunch of them.
Okay. When you're talking about the fruit trees, I think there's definitely opportunity there. Just keep in mind that when you're applying for irrigation through NRCS, that we'll need to have irrigation history provided from you, and it's self-certification. So it'll basically be a form set up where it lists what crop you were growing across the last 5 years, whatever time you apply. You'll list out the crop, how many acres it is, and whether or not you've been irrigating that crop at least two out of the last 5 years. So once you get orchard set up or whatever crop or whatever fruit trees you want to grow, you can apply. You don't even, after you get it set up, you can apply. I didn't cover this earlier that for these programs, EQIP, CSP, and many of our other programs, we take these applications throughout the course of the year. So even though we may rank these applications once, maybe twice a year, depending on the availability of funds in the state of Georgia, you can apply now for next year's program or whatever. So at one point in the year, we take time and we rank and assess all of the applications we've taken up to that point. But we don't have a time limit or time span on when, like a specific time on when you only can apply. So you want to go visit the office today and talk about that right now. Talking to the extension agent for the county is good, but also NRCS is also there. We can talk about it right now and go ahead and get you a conservation plan going. So in your local county, we have folks there that'll visit your site as soon as possible. And so when next year's ranking period comes around, you'll have a plan in place already.
Okay, awesome. I just purchased the land in when was that? Back in March, April. So, but I need to wait those 2 years in order to apply, let's say, for the irrigation. And is there a time limit? I'm listening.
As far as applying for the
And then is there
irrigation,
a time limit for other? I'm listening. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. You're saying the time limit for, what was it?
For any of the other programs, as
Okay.
far as owning the land for a certain amount of time or anything like that.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head. As long as you one of the things that I did mention when I cover eligibility is to make sure that you have your farm and track established, or your records established with USDA, or more specifically with FSA. And a lot of the time, even when I'm talking from an NRCS perspective, I often say USDA Service Center. So it's like a one-stop shop. If you find one of our offices, typically across the hallway, you'll find FSA. So you can visit FSA's office and make sure that your name is tied with their farm and track number. As long as you got a farm and track number, we can move forward with everything else. For the irrigation history, to apply for that, you will need 2 out of the last 5 years irrigation history for irrigation practices. But a lot of the time, you may be applying for one specific thing that you have in mind. I really want that. I think that'll help. But us as conservationists, we may be able to provide a different perspective that you might not have seen. We say, hey, you may need some burning here. You may have opportunity to help and improve your wildlife, or whatever the case is. So you're killing a couple birds with one stone. When we come out there, we can look at the resource concern you're talking about, and answer stuff that you didn't think about to start with.
All right, perfect. Well, I greatly appreciate you, Mr. Morris.
Not a problem at all. And Mr. Bobby Solomon says, do all producers have to complete an acreage report to FSA to participate in your programs? I believe so. So tied to what I was saying earlier, you need to have the land already associated with your name, the farm and track number. So I believe the acreage report is tied into that. Does anyone else have any questions or concerns right now? Let me see. All right, Mr. Gallagher says, what timeline do new farmers need to apply for EQIP or any other program? Are there any services for veterans? Of course. All right. I said I didn't have a PowerPoint, but I do have something that I can share, and that is the actual application that we have or cover. Can everyone see this? Thumbs up, thumbs down. Y'all can see it? All right.
Yes.
Yes, we can see it.
All right, I'll walk this from top to bottom, but I want to skip ahead for just a second. It's not going to take too long. It's about 4 pages, 10 questions. Our applications are the same for the majority of all of our conservation programs. But one of the sections, and if you've seen the NRCS application before, it describes or gives you the opportunity to answer this question. Do you meet the criteria for for any of the following categories? Mark all that apply. So for our conservation programs, I was talking about burning, irrigation, all the different practices we offer. At a minimum, when we take these applications in on an annual basis and we rank them, the state of Georgia receives X amount of dollars for funding. Our state office and our local offices, we start funding the applications, move from the top to the bottom until we run out of money. We start at the top ranking score and keep moving down until we run out of money. Every application that is pre-approved and becomes a contract generally is eligible for a 75% cost cost share rate, not pay for the whole thing, but cost share rate. 75% of what our economists believe it will cost to get that practice installed or completed. So if you end up getting approved for fencing, barbed wire, woven wire, electric fence, whatever the case is, our economists on a regional level and on a state level, we have a state economist housed in Athens, Georgia. So they look at how much it's going to cost for posts, wire, labor, fuel, everything that goes into your different practices. And they say, okay, this is how much it's going to cost to get that done. We'll pay at a minimum 75% for that practice. But if you fall into one of these categories, whether it be limited resource farmer, beginning farmer, socially disadvantaged, or veteran farmer, you're eligible for a 90% cost share rate. So by falling into one of these categories, and also on the 1200, not the 1200, the application, it describes what each one of these categories is. And this form is available on the website, and it's also available again in your local service center. So visit your local service center. For example, socially disadvantaged farmers. These groups consist of the following. So you got American Indians, Asians, Blacks or African Americans, Native Hawaiians or Pacific Islanders, and Hispanics. If you fall into one of these groups, you're not only eligible for 75% cost share, you're eligible for 90% cost share. So let me jump back to the question real quick. And I got another one. Let me jump to this one. What timeline do new farmers need to apply? So again, we don't have a different timeline for new farmers or beginning farmers or any one of those groups. You can apply throughout the course of the year. So typically we rank our equip applications. We just passed it, so it may fall somewhere between January and April at the latest. If you apply right now, even though April has just passed, you go ahead and apply right now. We'll do the site visits now, and by this time next year, we'll have your application ready to rank. So you don't have a specific timeline to submit for any of those services. And veteran farmers, they fell into one of those groups, so you're eligible for a 90% cost share. Mr. Sanders has a question. My apologies for missing this, but what is AGI an acronym for? Also, I found out through trial and error that in order to apply for a farm loan, the application has to be completed and submitted under the same name as the farm. If the farm is in your name, then the application must also be in your name. If you have given a business name to your farm, then the application has to be in the name of the business with you as the signer. The registered name on the farm has to be the name on the application. I will answer part of this, and I'll let Ms. Wyndham take other half of it. That's all right. For AGI, again, the acronym stands for Adjusted Gross Income. It's basically just saying that your adjusted gross income each year does not need to exceed $900,000. If it does, you won't be eligible for NRCS programs. And when you're talking about the names on the farm and the name in the program matching for NRCS programs, yes, whatever name you put on the application that I just showed you a second ago needs to match the name that is actually going to be enrolled into the program. So the name on the program and the name of the farm need to match. And Ms. Wyndham, did you want to address any part of that?
Yes, on the AGI, we do have a fact sheet that can be provided for any participants that are interested in it. I can send it to Ricky or whoever I need to send it to, and they can distribute it. Most of those questions that you have related to AGI, the form itself can be pulled up. FSA handles that for NRCS. So if NRCS can't answer the question, FSA be happy to answer that question for you. As far as how you apply for a farm loan, yes, your operation has to be consistent in its representation for how you intend to operate the farm across the agency. That because it impacts your crop insurance, or depending on what kind of operation you have, whatever insurance requirements you're going to have is all impacted by how you're represented with the agency. So it has to be the same for NRCS, FSA, crop insurance, RMA. And it really goes down to how you file your taxes. You can have a trade name that's an unofficial trade name and you don't file your taxes under that trade name for tax, to use for various purposes, that's fine. FSA is not trying to nor is NRCS trying to dictate to how a person does their operation, but it has to be consistent. And we do need to know when you first set up your operation, if you know that you're going to set it up as an entity and you have that paperwork already, then we need to go ahead and set it up as an entity. You can always change it going forward, but before you change it, if you're participating in programs with FSA or NRCS, we need to know before you change it, because there's a good amount of paperwork that we have to do to transfer it from one name to another. So it's all about communication.
Yeah, man, I appreciate you, Ms. Wyndham. And the way we cooperate right here is the same way we do in the service center. So whatever FSA can or can't help you with, NRCS can, and vice versa. I appreciate that. I want to jump back and cover the application real quick and see if that generates any more questions from anyone. And if it doesn't, that's all I have for you all today. So let me jump back over to that real quick. And we'll go from the top. So again, this application is fairly the same for the programs that I mentioned earlier. It's about 4 pages and 10 questions. So other than this short document and meeting the folks in your service center, that's the only thing standing between you and potentially getting some resource concerns addressed on your property and helping your operation move that much more efficiently. So to start it off, up at the top, we just require your some basic information, your name, a good address, and this information, a lot of it goes to the folks who've already encountered or dealt with some NRCS programs in the past. A lot of folks fill out the application using an address or a mailing address that they don't check very frequently, which ends up negatively for them, because we do send a lot of mail correspondence. We send regular mail and certified mail. So if you don't get those letters, a lot of the time it's due to you not using an updated address there, and an updated email address if possible. But if you don't have an email address, that's fine. Just make sure you cover the address, the mailing address, best you can. Also, telephone number and what date you submitted the application. All this information on the right-hand column is going to be completed by the folks in your local field office. As far as the legal description, that's actually your farm and your tract number. That ties into what I said earlier about just making sure that FSA, or that you register your farm, looking at your property ownership documents, your deed, lease, whatever the case is, make sure that your name is tied to that farm in order for you to be eligible for the program. So your farm and tract number will go right there. The first question is, do you have your farm records established with USDA? If you have a farm and a tract number, everything is set up, yes, right there, you're good to go. Number 2, you're just asking which program you're applying to participate in. Here checked on this one is pre-checked. It's the EQIP program, the Environmental Quality Incentives Program. But we also have options for the Conservation Stewardship Program, and then list some other programs that we may have periodically. So maybe WRE, RCPP, AMA, but on a consistent basis, more than likely in your local office, you're always going to see EQIP and CSP. The third question is, are you applying to participate in this program as an individual or entity or a joint operation? You'll check whichever one of these apply and make sure you list the tax number or the social security number associated with your answer. Number 4 is asking basically, what are you producing on your operation? What crop or what livestock? So beef, cattle, horses, goats, corn, cotton, soybeans, peanuts, whatever the case is. Number 5, is it private land or public land? Majority of the time it's going to be private land. Number 6, do you have control of the land? Because a lot of the time we're installing structural practices or planting different cover crops or paying for fences and wells and things like that. Of course, we don't want you installing, and you don't want to be installing something that you end up going to be paying a part of. You don't want to install it on somebody else's land. So we got to verify that you have control of those acres. Number 7, is this land already in a conservation program? Yes or no? Number 8, the question that I covered earlier, is, do you fall into one of these categories? And you'll need to check something I didn't mention earlier. You'll need to check all that apply for the reason that when we rank these applications, they're being ranked in what we call different funding pools. So your local office, when they rank your application, they're going to rank you in every funding pool that applies to you. So if you only check one funding pool here, you're only going to get ranked in one funding pool in that office outside of the general part. So you'll be ranked in the 75% part with all the farmers in that county or state, whatever the case may be, in addition to whatever you check here. And again, the next page, maybe page and a half, describes what each one of these categories is about. So number 9, is any of the land offered for enrollment under this application? Is it certified organic, transitioning, and things like that? And that question is answered because we also have funding pools typically for organic producers. So when I say these different funding pools, it's important because if you don't check any one of these categories on this question or the last one, you'll be ranked against everyone who's eligible. But if you check one of these, you're in that pool, you're ranked against only those folks who are eligible. So if I check social disadvantage, if I'm filling out an application, I check social disadvantage, or if I check beginning farmer, my application is going to be competing for funding against other beginning farmers. So that kind of narrows down the amount of applicants that you'll have to compete against in order to get funding for a contract and get these conservation practices that we've been talking about. The last question is number 10. It asks, have you received a copy of the appendix? So this is a 4-page application, 10 questions. We ran through that in about 2 minutes. But the appendix is a longer document. It describes in detail all of our eligibility requirements, how each program is set up, everything. And it's about maybe 15 pages or more long. If nothing else, you need to make sure that your local office provides you a copy of this appendix so you can keep it for your record. So if anything comes up or you just want to read it for your information, you'll have that on hand with your records. And then you'll sign and date this application, and you'll submit to your local office. The next steps that we take after that is we typically take your application, we'll take a track map of your property, and we'll do what we call a field visit. So we can meet you, or typically we meet whoever applies out there on your place, look at whatever resource concerns there may be. So you may have erosion or washes, see how many livestock you got, what kind of livestock, what kind of water troughs you have there, what kind of trees you have, whatever the case is, we'll look at all of that, take that into account. And what me and the gentleman earlier were talking about, you may be applying for one thing that you have in your mind, but oftentimes the folks who work in the office, they may see it from a different perspective. Because in our offices, we have foresters, we got grazing specialists, we got folks who are experts in farming. They farm on the side or they grew up on a farm, small farm, large acres, whatever. So they probably see something that you don't see. So you're missing opportunity by not filling out these 10 questions and getting to know the folks in your office. They can help you out a whole lot. Unless anyone has any other questions beyond that, I think I'm all used up, Mr. Waters. So y'all have any questions, put in the chat box or feel free to take yourself.
Mr.
No.
Mr. Morris, this is Ms. Price.
Yes, sir.
I have a 2 or 3 part question to ask you in regards to this scenario. If a producer wanted to take row crop land out of production and put it into forestry or timber or trees, would your agency programs or would the Forestry Commission programs be best suited for a producer that wanted to get to plant trees on land they want to take out of agronomic production?
Okay, let me answer that portion first. So moving from cropland to forestry or even cropland to pasture, we consider that moving from one level of conservation to a higher level of conservation, because you know with your cropland, you're tilling it up, you're harrowing, you're planting, you're spraying, and then you're not doing so much of that when you're incorporating forestry, pine trees, or even grazing livestock. You're not doing a lot of that, so you're causing a lot less soil disturbance. So NRCS definitely can look into helping you do that. So we can look into pasture and hay plan, whether you're looking at TIF9 or any other kind of Bahia grass or Bermuda or something like that. We can look in to see what kind of grass suits your livestock, or you looking to convert it to forestry. We can look at the soils and the site and see what trees best suit that site. Now, as far as NRCS programs helping you more, or Georgia Forestry Commission programs helping you more, that question is kind of weird to answer, because we program, or we partner rather, with GFC. So like I said, in our offices, we have experts on forestry, cropland, and grazing and all this stuff. We also partner with Georgia Forestry Commission, Extension, as you can see here. So we don't rely on solely folks in the office to do this. So if we have a site, if you apply for something like that and you need to know what kind of trees to plant, or when to burn, or where to put your fire breaks and all that, we lean and rely on GFC to help us answer those questions. So technical advice, you can go to NRCS or GFC. Now the programs, again, is your land, so we can't really tell you which way to go one way or the other. But myself, when I'm looking at these programs, or in my own cases, a lot of the time I'm looking at the financial benefits as well as technical. So you got to take it all into consideration. So if you're looking at programs or technical advice, you can go to either one. But you're looking at programs, typically I'm going to the one that's going to pay me more. So that's just bluntly speaking. So I won't say which one is paying more on tree planting or whatever the case is. You just need to look at your specific case and look at who pays what, or who pays more in each program, and go that direction. And as far as NRCS, how much we pay for each practice is public information. It's on NRCS website, the public website, or again, you can visit your local service center and they have the information for you. They can tell you how much we pay for each practice in EQIP or CSP or whatever the case is.
Okay, thank you. And my other question is, do you, in your service area, do you cover the counties, I guess, surrounding Columbus, Georgia, Webster County, Randolph County, those counties?
I will answer that, but I'll let Ms. Wyndham, she had something to say there. So I'll let Ms. Wyndham tag in, and then I'll.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. Go ahead, Ms. Wyndham.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted to say that in addition to NRCS and Georgia Forestry tree planting programs, you have the Conservation Reserve Program, which is actually with FSA. And if you're transitioning row crop land to forestry land, that's part of the Conservation Reserve Program. That's one of the practices under the Conservation Reserve Program. NRCS provides us a technical expertise along with the Georgia Forestry into which practices would be best suitable for your farmland in that conversion process. But the general sign up for Conservation Reserve for 2021 is ongoing right now and ends July 23rd of this year. And for row crop land to be transitioned out of row cropping practices, you have to have 4 out of 6 years of cropping history. So we'll be looking at 2012 through 2017 as the 6 years. And 4 years of those 6 have to have a cropping history. And you don't have to plant trees only. There's the tree planting practices, and then there's also grass planting practices that can be done under this Conservation Reserve Program. That cost shares for not only the tree planting, but also provides you an annual rental rate on those trees during the length of the contract. So that's ongoing right now. We have the continuous enrollment ongoing. That's for land that's already enrolled in the conservation practice. And I'll just add right quick to this conversation. If you have existing pasture land and hay land, or just grass idle land that's not enrolled in a EQIP or CSP program with NRCS, that land that does not have to have been cropped is eligible for the Conservation Reserve Program under a grasslands practice, which is a working grasslands practice. And we'll start taking applications for that starting July 12th. And that's an annual rental payment program as well. So we pay you a rental payment and you can continue to graze and hay your grasslands. So those are ongoing. Well, grassland starts July 12th. CRP for the tree planting and or grass planting, whichever one you want to do, ends July 23rd. And that's based on environmental benefits index score. So just wanted to add that.
So there you go. So
Thank
I
you,
said
Mr.
earlier, USDA Service Center is considered a one-stop shop. So that's an example right there. She just gave you another option for taking care of those goals that you have on your land. And for the record, I've never met Ms. Wyndham in person, I don't think, but she helped me out a great deal. Just like I said earlier, the relationship between FSA and NRCS typically like this. So you have any issues, a lot of the time we work together to help you work on those. But Mr. Price, you said earlier what counties we're looking to cover in. So again, we have service centers in most counties across the state of Georgia. For myself, I cover what we call Area 3, Georgia. So right around up by Fort Valley, covering around to Sumter, Sly, Webster, Stewart, all the way down to Bainbridge and all the way east to Thomasville. That's pretty much the four corners right there that I pretty much cover.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and then there, if you don't have anything else, there's looks like one other question. Are there programs for a beginning farmer? Example, a landowner wanting to grow fruit but have not began growing or irrigating yet. Again, EQIP program. Well, let me answer it like this. I always try to keep people open-minded as far as what they're applying for. Again, you may have one thing in mind in particular, one goal you have set. I'm just starting farming. I want to grow this. I want to irrigate it, etc. Well, two things. A lot of the time, these practices you're applying for have eligibility requirements. So again, for irrigation specifically, you need to have 2 out of the last 5 years irrigation history. You can be using water buckets, watering wagon, a hose, whatever the case is to water your different crops, trees, or whatever. But I don't want that to deter you.
Just get it later.
From applying for the programs. If you're looking at irrigation, there still may be an opportunity for something else there that you don't have that you may need. So don't be afraid to stop by the service center anyway and get us to come out and do a field visit. And we may see something outside of irrigation that you can put into place until the time that you need that, or until the time that you have that irrigation history set up.
Mr. Morris.
Yes, sir. How you doing, Mr. Travis?
All right. How you? Let me ask you a question. Can you put your pasture land in the CSP program and draw a payment even though you got grass on it? Would that consider as a cover crop too?
Even though you're still grazing it, right?
Right.
All right. So it wouldn't. I guess it wouldn't be. We'll look at each case specifically, but I think that wouldn't be considered as a cover crop. You're just talking about permanent grass,
right?
All right. So it wouldn't be considered a cover crop. They just be considered as pasture in our situation, but you can enroll those acres in the CSP program. For CSP, again, the Conservation Stewardship Program, you can enroll in any one of those land uses: forestry, cropland, grazing, etc., and wildlife also. But we do have enhancements or practices and activities that we can use to address anything grazing related. So you can still enroll those acres in. And that's the detail I missed earlier. Again, my apologies. For EQIP program, whether you're receiving the 75% cost share rate or the 90% cost share rate, the way that program works is once you've installed these practices in your contract, NRCS will make a field visit again to verify that you've installed them to meet our standards and specifications, and we'll issue the payment for these practices. Now, once all the practices in your contract have been completed, that contract is over. You gotten everything done, everything is paid for, the contract is over. And those contracts typically allow you a time span of roughly 2 years to get those things in. But CSP is a little bit different. So initially it's a 5-year program, and it sparks the interest of a lot of people because across the course of 5 years, annually as an individual, each year you can receive a payment of a maximum of $40,000. But that's not just give me it. It's associated with these practices or activities or enhancements that I mentioned earlier. So that's just the maximum payment you can receive. But anyway, annually across the 5 years, you'll document all the requirements that you have for each one of these enhancements or practices. At the end of every year, sometime between the months of November and February, you'll submit your documentation to your local office. They'll review your documentation and issue you your annual payment in that time span. So that contract goes over 5 years before typically you're eligible for a renewal contract, which is an additional 5 years. So at most, I've seen these contracts go on for roughly 10 to 11 years. So, but yeah, to answer your question again, Mr. Travis, yeah, you can enroll those acres in CSP.
One more question. What's the cap versus the LLC versus non-LLC?
It's actually changed now. Typically, it was initially annually was $40,000 and for an individual and $80,000 for an entity. So that'll total up $200,000 for an individual and $400,000 for an entity across the course of that 5-year time span. But if I'm not mistaken, and I'll double check and get back with you, but if I'm not mistaken, it's all the same now. So it's a set payment rate for each. And I don't want to say which one it is. If I'm not mistaken, I think it's $200,000 across the board, whether it's individual or entity. But I don't want to misspeak. I'll double check and I'll get back with you on that.
Okay, thank you.
Does anybody have any other questions? None seen, none heard. Again, I appreciate the opportunity. Thanks to Fort Valley State University, Extension Services, everybody tied in. Ms. Carla, I see you on. Thanks again to Mr. Troutman for the invite.
Thank you.
Mr. Everybody, I appreciate it. If y'all need anything, I'll provide my contact information afterwards to the folks I just mentioned. If they don't, they should. I probably already got it. And y'all need anything, reach out to me. And again, I reemphasize, visit farmers.gov or visit your local USDA service center to see good folks like Ms. Teresa Wyndham and myself. If you think I'm a good person, I don't know. And then we'll be sure to help you out.
Ms. Teresa, Ms. Stinson, what could you touch on the moratorium on the debt relief a little bit?
So the moratorium that we have right now on the debt relief, you talking about
Yes.
the injunction where we can't make the payments? Are you talking about that?
No, no, not making the payment. If you got like on the guaranteed side, if you got the lenders trying to take action against the farmer.
Okay, sure. So right now, we've been under a moratorium for the past year on the direct and the guaranteed side that no servicing actions can proceed past acceleration or up to the point of acceleration. So all the lenders have been contacted and told that they can carry out their notification up to the point of acceleration. So if you're delinquent, they can notify you as they are required to do that the account is delinquent. This is the due process to follow. But after that, they have to stop any actions. They can't continue with a foreclosure or any actions of that nature. If the lender does violate that in some regards, the person should really contact the FSA office so that we can tell them that they're violating the guarantee, which voids their guarantee, and they don't want to void their guarantee. If something happens, that means that their protection that the government is providing is canceled. So yes, right now we're on a moratorium, ongoing, and have been for a while. That we can take the loan up to a certain extent, if the account is delinquent. We just can't foreclose or take any other actions past notification.
Okay, thank you.
Just one last thing, everyone. I just wanted to make note of a correction with Miss Carla Hollis's location on campus, the USDA liaison for Fort Valley State. In your chat box, she made a correction as to where her office is located now, and this has been recently. Thank you.
have you, okay, I want to take this moment out to thank both of the speakers for participating with us today. And you guys were real good in explaining everything, real thorough about it, and really appreciate that. Before we adjourn, we asked Mr. Solomon to put the evaluation in the chat box. You guys give us a few minutes on doing that, and then we'll ask Mr. Mark Thomas to give us some remarks. Mr. Thomas, will you come and give us some more remarks before we adjourn?
Okay, you want me to give remarks while, are you doing the evaluation or you want the remarks now?
The survey monkey is already in the chat box, Ricky.
Okay, thank you.
Just click
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Thomas, we are ask you to give us some remarks, if you don't mind, before we adjourn.
All right. Again, thank you all. We'd like to thank FSA and NRCS, Mr. Wyndham and Mr. Garrett for your attendance today. Much appreciated. We'd like to thank you all, the participants, for coming out and joining us. As we do these type programs, the world has changed and we are offering programs through a virtual format. We will never discourage face-to-face. We will get back to face-to-face, but we are also going to incorporate lessons learned during COVID-19, which is one of the reasons why we implore you and applaud you and hope that you will continuously stay abreast of what we do through our website, through our other social media platforms. We have to utilize these venues because the world has changed. Resources are scarce. We are a limited organization with limited people and staff, and limited even in our coverage area. So these are the platforms that we will be using in addition to the things that we've done in the past. So we continue to provide programs. We ask that you stay abreast. We continuously ask that you support what we do, and not only support what we do, as Mr. Garrett stated, we're all in agriculture, whether it is Fort Valley State Extension, University of Georgia Extension, USDA, FSA, Georgia Forestry Commission, NRCS. All of us are in partnership together to service you all, the farmers / landowners. Anytime we can be available to assist. We may not always have the answers, but we definitely can refer. The same as with the other agencies that I just mentioned, they may not have the answers, but they can often refer. But I ask that you check the websites on each of these agencies. You know, familiarize yourself with programs that they have. So when you go into these various different offices, you'll be familiar with the programs that they got, because sometimes it's a matter of knowing what questions to ask and what questions not to ask in terms of the answers that you give. So yes, utilize technology, and we thank you all for participating with us. And now turn it back over to Mr. Waters.
Okay. Thank you. If all minds, hearts are clear, now our meeting stand adjourned. Y'all have a good day.
Y'all do have a few minutes. We do ask that you all take a few minutes before getting off. If you would go ahead and complete the survey for us. Mr. Solomon, just in the event people don't want to scroll all the way up, is it possible that you can also add the link back in there again so it will show up at the bottom of the chat, just to make sure that people have it?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that.
We'll give you all a few minutes before we close out. And for the people on Facebook Live, you might want to mention that thank you to them too, Mr. Waters.
Yes, sir. We thank that you all on the Facebook Live for participating with us today, and hope you all enjoyed our present the information that we need. So thank you again. Hope you participate with us in the foreseeable future.
And Mr. Woolfolk, if it's possible, the evaluation link, if that could be copied and pasted on the Facebook Live in the comment section, so those individuals who are watching us through Facebook can basically fill out the evaluation. And one other note to mention, if you got something in this and you want to go back and review it, this will be up on our Fort Valley State College of Ag Facebook page. You're always welcome to go back and review this program. If you wanted to view Ms. Wyndham's PowerPoint presentation, it will be up. You can view it at any point in time, look at it at your leisure. Or you can review this whole section in terms of Mr. Morris's presentation and the information that he provided as well.
Yes, because we had some latecomers that came on to the meeting. Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for that.
Okay, appreciate it.
Mark, do you want us, the staff, to stay on
It's gonna be brief. Yeah,
the Zoom link?
yeah, we can stay on for a few minutes. It's gonna be real brief though.
Okay.
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 I can ask a question. Where would you like that AGI fact sheet? Who should I send that to?
You already have it.
Oh, yeah.
You can send it to whomever. Who email address do you have with Fort Valley already?
Most everybody's.
Just send it to all of us then, if you don't mind.
Okay.
And then we'll make sure as everybody gets it, we'll make sure
too,
it go to everybody else.
Yeah. Also, too, if as Ms. Hollis being our USDA liaison, if she doesn't have it, could you send one to her as well?
Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes. Is that Mr. Jerome Powell Stinson?
Say what now, Mark?
I said that Mr. Jerome Powell.
I believe that is, Mark.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, that's Jerome.
All right, Mr. Powell, can you hear me, sir?
He's on mute.
Okay.
Unmute your microphone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello,
Mr. Powell, how you doing, sir?
finding you today.
I'm good. Been a long time, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has been.
It has been. It has been good to hear your voice, though.
You too.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you come in a little late. You know, you come in a little late, but you try to go back and get the information. If you come in a little late, you come back and get the information.
We'll make sure y'all get it. Stinson work with y'all to make sure y'all get all the information.
Okay, thank
Right.
you.
You're more than welcome.
Mark, in the chat box, I see what somebody asked, could we share the link to the Facebook Live page? I haven't seen it.
If I'm not mistaken, I think Terrence put the Facebook page in there earlier.
Okay, okay.
It's toward the top. If they would scroll up toward the top of their the chat box, the Facebook page is in there, the YouTube, Fort Valley's YouTube page, and also the website link is also in there. Those are links that we provided earlier. Ms. Wyndham, do you know how to copy and paste that sheet in the chat box? That AGI fact sheet that you're referring to? Do you know how to upload it in the chat box?
You mean the link to the sheet or the actual sheet itself?
Either one. It's up to you. It's a preference. You can either put that whole sheet in there, or you can put a link to that sheet in there.
Okay, I've included the link to the sheet. I'm not sure how you can copy the whole fact sheet. It's several pages long.
No, I'm saying if you put that link in there, people can click on that link and then they got access and they can save it to their device.
Yep, I've put it in the chat box.
Thank you. We're trying to push people towards technology.
Yes, I embrace technology. It's a struggle.
I know it, but you gotta have people like me that push you up, push people to do it. Because one of the things is we have to also understand that we're gonna bring younger people in. Younger people are already using this stuff, quite frankly, and sometimes we have us old dinosaurs, so to speak. We got to conform and get better at how we communicate with them.
I've put the CRP fact sheet and the AGI fact sheet in there, and I didn't mention it during the talk, but I did talk about farmers.gov, but talking about technology, we've been pushing out discovery tools on the farmers.gov page to help people explore more about programs, because you want to be somewhat prepared when you go into an office to have a general conversation. You kind of need to know something to start the conversation. So the discovery tool will help them in those regards. So I hope that people go to the farmers.gov platform and use the discovery tool.
And that was the reason for my comments. I mean, we got to basically start utilizing, because if we're not going to have websites and we're not going to reference websites and put all this information out there, then what do we have them for?
Mm-hmm.
So it's either a tool that we use or it's a tool that we don't use. So if we got it, we might as well utilize it. And sometimes, it is underutilized. And quite frankly, I'm just gonna say this, just Mark's opinion, but in ag, we're a bit antiquated when it comes to technology, and we got to step our game up to service the people. We take into account that people aren't utilizing these things. Well, that's not necessarily true. And we got to give it for the ones that are using it. We always like to take a tunnel vision approach where majority of the people are doing it this way. So this is the only way we're going to do it. We got to be like everybody else. I mean, we got to be flexible. We got to still do mail outs, but at the same time, we got to offer stuff through websites. We got to offer stuff through virtual, and we got to offer stuff through face-to-face. And technology allow us to be smarter and more efficient. We just have to incorporate it. But that's my 2 cents.
You're on. Do you have your hand raised? You're on, Paul.
Oh, you ain't up.
Yeah.
What, do you have a question?
He didn't get in on it.
No, I was late getting in on it.
Okay.
Now, has everyone had a chance to complete the evaluation? And at this point, we're going to give you all probably a few more minutes before we close out and then just have internal staff. To our guest speakers, do you all want to participate in that and give us any feedback that you all saw, or are you all good? We welcome any comments and feedback from you all, but we like to do that in a closed session.
No, I don't have no feedback at the moment. Because
Okay.
I missed the beginning of it.
Yes, sir.
And I was trying to get him. And I finally made it. But I don't have no feedback.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Powell. We appreciate it.
No, I just want to say thank you for opportunity to do any presentation or opportunity to discuss any programs with any group of people is appreciated. We always trying to educate the public about FSA programs and USDA in general. So anytime you need a presenter that I can help with, let me know. I appreciate it, and I'll sign off.
Thank you. We got your name in our Rolodex, and we're gonna keep using it.
I'm here.
You know I'm old.
Miss
You know I'm old if I say
Miss
Rolodex. Go ahead, Stephanie. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Ms. Wyndham or Mr. Morris, are you all both? Mr. Morris, are you there?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay. Do any of you need participant information or whatever for your reporting purposes? As you all report your activity with us on this Zoom call, do y'all need any information from us for reporting purposes?
I don't know about Ms. Wyndham, but I think I'm good personally. I encourage everyone who was on the call, who's on now, and the other viewers who are watching, just like I said earlier, I can't stress it enough. Just make sure they visit their local office. And the reason I kind of presented the way I did, just wanted to cover any specific issues, because a lot of the times we talk about USDA programs in general. I think the best way is to cover any specific issues and kind of iron this stuff out. But the best solution for that stuff is for folks to visit the local service center, get to know the staff there, stop in and take some candy out of the candy bowl at FSA or whatever the case. That's what I do all the time is when whatever the case is, just stop in and get to know us. We got some nice people work around the state, and if you run into any issues where you don't experience you don't have a nice experience, let myself or let somebody know, and we'll be sure to take care of that most definitely. But I don't have any critiques or anything. If anybody want to reach out to me, feel free. But it's probably my third or fourth presentation this week. I helped Miss Carla out about 2 weeks ago, and I did 1 or 2 events a couple weeks before that. So I don't need any role. I'm good.
Mr. Wyndham, you need any contact numbers or anything from the meeting from us?
No, I don't need any information. It would be great if I could know how many people actually attended, but I don't need any other information.
It was 27 people.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's on Zoom. How much Facebook Live?
Yeah, we can get you probably a total number. It was 26 that was on here in terms of live, but we also have people who are on Facebook who attended the live, and we tally those numbers afterwards. And after we get that total number, we can send it to you. Would an email be sufficient? Okay. All right. Since Mr. Troutman contacted you and asked you to speak, we'll have him get you that total number once we tally it. That work for you? All right.
Yeah. Mr. Morris, I would like to thank you and Ms. Teresa for participating, and y'all done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna get out of y'all way. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Have a good day.
All right. You all too.
Thank y'all.